Okay, today we're going to be working on the bouncing ball, the perpetual bouncing ball, which is traditionally the very first assignment that's ever given in animation classes. So, get ready? Baseball. It's right at your head. Okay, ready?
Don't. Oh no.
Okay. Weird ball with some sort of jelly in it and another ball inside it's first. It's a nice shaky ball. It's got a happy face on it too. Okay, have a seat. Alright, so I passed out balls to everybody. So what we're going to do today is we're going to basically going to bounce the balls and we're going to analyze how they bounce. Each person has basically a different ball, different type of ball. I named them as I threw them out to you, and I've got a few more in here that are very similar to what you guys have gotten as well, so I'll demonstrate up here as well. But what I want you to do is just sort of clear a space on your desk so you've got some room that you can actually bounce your ball. And make sure that when you drop it, that your tables are all nice and level. So they shouldn't bounce in the same spot, but just try and control your ball, okay? So hold it about 1 foot off the table, let it bounce, and count the number of bounces. Count the number of bounces.
A lot of bounces.
Okay, let's go around and find out how many bounces we got for our balls. Start over here. How many bounces you got?
I got
9? 4? 3? 10? 10? 5?
I got like 13.
13? 5?
I think 9.
No, you think that?
Averaging 10, 11.
10, 11?
14.
14?
Like 26-ish.
26! You had the ping pong ball, right?
Yeah.
8?
12 to 13.
12 to 13?
5.
What?
I don't know. 6. Does it get
1 meter
16?
16?
Like 7.
7. So we had, who had 3? 3 for that one and 20 something? 26-ish. So we had a broad range of the number of bounces between the balls, right? Depending on what the ball is made of, will determine how much it bounces. It's not so much the size of the ball, it's what it's physically made of. So here I've got 4 different balls, similar to what you guys have. I've got a wiffle ball, which is plastic, it's hollow, it's got the holes in it. So let's count the bounces on this one.
What?
About 8, roughly, before it dribbles off to nothing. Because you get those really fast multiple ones at the very bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, roughly about 8. So now I've got more of an Indian rubber ball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. About 10 for that one. Ping pong ball, this one's going to do the big long bounce. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Say 30.
Let's say 30. Okay.
What?
And then I've got a golf ball.
I'm not a math student. Can't count.
About 12. Then I've got this, which is a marble. About 17 for that one. Then I've got a hockey ball. This one's cool. Watch this. Ready?
Last time you gave that to me.
This one has a lead ball inside of it, and it's got some sort of a jelly inside of it as well. So it keeps the ball from bouncing. So when you're playing hockey, it just doesn't keep bouncing away forever. It actually just stops and goes nowhere, which is kind of cool. So the different type of, this is not a baseball, it's like a foam rubber ball.
That looks like a base.
So 12. So each ball here, depending on its physical makeup, will have a different type of a bounce to it. So the ping pong ball has the greatest number of bounces. Okay? It's a plastic shell, hollow inside, So it's very, very hard, which means that when it hits a hard surface, it's going to have a reflection off of it. Whereas when you get to something that's softer like this ball here, it's going to absorb the impact when it hits, and it'll have less of a bounce to it. So if I bounce the two of them side by side, you'll see the obvious difference between, from the same height, right? So this one just keeps on going and going and going, whereas this one had absorbed the weight to it. If I take these two here, the Indian rubber ball and the soft foam ball, similar, very, very similar, okay, but not quite. This one obviously didn't bounce at all. Then we've got, see the difference in them? Okay, just a very, very subtle little bit of a difference. So the important point that I'm trying to make here is that although it looks like a ball, they all are balls, they all act slightly differently depending on what their physical makeup is. And so when we're animating our characters, we have to consider this as well. Who is our character? What is the makeup of our character? And what's the motivation for why they move? Both physical and psychological as well. And so this is one of the things that we're going to sort of delve into with this bouncing ball assignment. We're going to stick with a standardized type of timing just to experience the idea of stretch and squash and timing and slow in, slow outs. Just to get you introduced to the idea of animation. But it's still something that we have to think about because we can modify our animation in any way that we want to create any type of a ball depending on the type of timing that we have. Right? So we can slow a ball down, we can speed it up, we can bounce it more if we wanted to, or less if we wanted to. And it all depends on who that character is. Okay? So I'm just going to pass this around, let you guys reflect on. Normally I would have you guys throw your balls at me all at the same time. Have everybody throw their balls at me just see if I can catch them all at the same time. But I'm just going to pass this around. Okay, so when you go into my website, just to
The beaver.
refresh you with this.
And the squirrel.
Oh, okay.
Can you draw a moose and put it on your front page?
Yes, I
They're
could.
my favorite animals.
Is on the
Happy. Next time I'm
I'll show you
frustrated
something.
with my. Oh, you have a moose?
Yes, I do. When you click down to Animation School and you click on the banner there, that'll take you to the area that you are supposed to go into for all your stuff. Your stuff is all right here in first semester. But if we click down, sorry, back here, just go down to the video lecture series.
Is this us?
Well, this is you too, yeah. You can go in here and you'll find an index for all the different lectures that I've been doing over the past few years. This is the one we had last week, Introduction to In-Betweening, part 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can go in here and you can check out any of the stuff that I've got as far as lectures go. That'll take you to my YouTube page. Scrolling down a little bit further, these are all the assignment lectures. So this is the Perpetual Ball Bounce, which I will upgrade with the one that we're doing right now, et cetera, all the way through. So there's just different variations. Every year I put a little tweak into it that's slightly different, but you can always look at the other one as well and see what's going on. There will also be an associated website page so that when you click on that, it'll take you to the actual assignment page that describes everything that's going on with the assignment and what's required for it. Each one will have principles that are involved, so when you click on each of these, it'll take you to the specific principle, and these, by the way, are just outside of your classroom, right by the punch. Just to give you a refresher reminder about what the principle is, and then I just go into a little dissertation about when you should use it, how much you should use it, etc., etc. So you can read some of that stuff. So these are just sort of extra little lectures that I've thrown in here. Same thing with all this other stuff in here. There'll also be a link to the actual video lectures, so you can click on any of those. If we back up here just to scroll down, again, it just goes through all the stuff that we're going to be dealing with all through the entire semester, as well as second semester. And then towards the bottom down here, I've got some extra stuff that I've been adding in on character design. And right at the very bottom is my stuff from Humber, which is the perspective drawing stuff. And so this section right here, part 1 through part 6, is the lecture that I just gave last week, actually on Monday, at Humber College. So you can check out basics of perspective there as we go through, and it'll ramp up into layout, production art, location designs, prop designs, object drawing, etc., etc. So that'll cover all the basics of perspective if you're ever interested in checking that stuff out as well. Most of the lectures are roughly about 20 minutes, or each section is 20 minutes in length. So obviously this one here is like a 2-hour movie, basically, of going through 1-point, 2-point, interior and exterior type stuff. So you can check that out anytime you want. Okay, so like I said, you can go in there and find whatever you need as far as the lecture series goes. Let me just click on one just to show you. So when you go to my YouTube page, this is basically what will come up.
I wonder whose YouTube page this is.
I wonder.
Yeah.
So here's the latest lectures that I put up on the perspective drawing stuff.
Just now.
So this is the this is the lecture from last week right here. Okay, the different parts of it right here. So you can click on that and see anything that was on there. What I want you to do is take your first sheet of animation paper, and what we're going to do is we're going to fold it in half. So what I want you to do is take it and fold it on your peg holes, so your peg holes match up right over top of each other like this. Get your square peg holes to match up, and then just fold it right down the center here. Just very lightly, you don't have to do a hard crease on it. But it's just enough to create a line so that we can actually see it. Like this.
I am the middle.
Right, and this is going to be our path of action for the ball. Next step is we want to draw our first position of our ball. So we're going to put the ball approximately 1.5 inches from the top of the sheet of paper. So it's centered roughly about here. And I want you to draw a circle on the center of the line of action, roughly about the size of a toonie. Roughly. Okay, so just lightly rough it in like this. Usually when I'm drawing circles, I like to just lightly sketch it in and then eventually start to harden up my lines as I find the actual shape that I want. But you can keep it loose and rough like this. And if you're really drawing deficit, you can actually take out a toonie and draw a circle around it. That'll make it more accurate. Then what I like to do is once I've got the basic shape figured out, then I can go over top and I can start to tighten up the line a little bit more with a darker line just to define what the actual shape is. Okay, so we've got our first drawing here, which is our high point of the ball. And so this is a key position. It's a key drawing. So down in the bottom corner over here, we're going to write drawing number 1. We put a number 1 down here and we circle it because it's a key. Then what we're going to do is we're going to draw a blank timing chart here that extends up like that, and just leave it so it looks like this for now. We don't fill in the timing chart because we don't know where we're going to yet. We haven't drawn our second key and we haven't determined our timing. So now we take the next sheet of paper, put it over top of the pegs, and finding that center line that we're running down, I want you to go about 1 inch off of the pegs, 1 inch above, and that's going to represent the surface of the ground. And so now what I want you to draw is a squished, what's that?
The focus is kind of like going in and
Oh,
out.
sorry, yeah. It'll zoom in or pop back in again, sorry.
Magic.
So now I want you to draw an oval here of the ball in a squished position, but we have to try and maintain the overall volume of it as much as we possibly can. So what you can do is you can take the initial drawing that you've done and slide it over top of the original ball and line up the bottoms of them and then flip the drawings. And what you'll see is the ball is basically just going squishing and coming back to normal. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that the top of the ball from the previous drawing here is going down, it's flattening, so we're losing our volume here, but we have to extend the volume out either side because it's being displaced. So when you squish down, we have to displace it out on the sides. If you maintain the width of the original ball, then what will happen is it'll just look like the ball is shrinking. So try and maintain the overall volume as much as you can. That was a very cute sneeze. Oh, was it gooey? It was a gooey sneeze, wasn't it? Oh man, it's all over our paper. So these are now our two main key positions. Now, one of the things you have to be careful of when you're drawing your keys is understanding what is the effect of whatever it is that's happening to the object. So in some cases, what you can do, if you wanted to, you could alter your key position and make it look something like this. I could find my flat surface down here, and I could draw my ball maybe more like this. So it looks like a plunger, the head of the plunger being suctioned down onto the ground. But the problem with that is that when I go from this position down to here, it's going to look like it's actually stuck on the ground. Okay, it won't have a bouncy feel to it. It'll look like it's going. Well, it wouldn't make that sound. It would go. That's what it sound would make. Make a sucking sound as it popped off of the ground, because it looks like it's actually formed a seal on the bottom here. So we want to be careful as to how we demonstrate. Plus, what this also does is it tells us something about the form and consistency of the ball as well, saying that it's maybe a little bit more, pliable down here, that it would flatten out that much when it hit the surface. Now, in this drawing, the other thing that I'm inherently putting into it is a perspective plane. So you can see by the ellipse right here, if I continue that ellipse through to the other side, that would be the elliptical plane that the ball would be actually sitting on. So there's a perspective that's taking place there that sort of looks like this. Okay. Which means that there's a vanishing point somewhere around here, which means that that's my horizon line. Okay. So you have to be careful as you're drawing your object or your character that you maintain whatever the look of it is that you want. But we're going to stick with this one just because it makes it look a little bit more bouncy. So now this is our second key. So now what we need to do is we need to determine our timing. We can't assign a number to this one because we haven't figured out how many drawings we're going to put in between to get to that position. So this line that's up here on your timing chart represents this drawing here. And this line here is our number 1 drawing. So what we want to do is we want to drop the ball down and have it contact the surface down here into this position, which is this one here. So it's a little bit of a brain twister because the ball is going from high to low, but on the timing chart it's going from here up to here. So what's the first thing we automatically do when we have a timing chart to figure out our initial timing?
Find the middle.
Find the halfway position. So we're going to drop a halfway point right there. Right. So now if we just maintain what we've got here, we have an equal distance between these two, plus we don't have a lot of time. We've got 2, 4, 6 frames, which is 1/4 of a second for that ball to drop, which is very, very fast. So we don't want to do that. So we have to start to think of some of the laws of motion. And one of the first principles of animation is that we need to have slow ins and slow outs of our action. We can't just abruptly have something moving from point A to point B in an evenly spaced. Then it becomes mechanical. So we know that we're dropping the ball, or the ball is starting at the high point and it's dropping down. What's acting upon the ball to cause it to drop?
Gravity.
Gravity is. So gravity is a force that's pulling down, coupled with the weight of the ball, is going to act upon it and cause it to drop down, but it's going to accelerate as it comes down. So the first few movements from the high point are going to be smaller and then gradually getting bigger as it moves down. So therefore we want to reflect that same type of an action here on our timing chart. So we're going to show a slow in to the action from number 1 to this position down here. So we're going to put another halfway position right here. So that automatically gives us a slow in action because the distance from here to here is less than the distance here to here. So we automatically have an acceleration. But we still don't have enough frames. We've only got 2, 4, 6, 8, which is now 1/3 of a second. So it's slightly faster, slightly slower than 1/4 of a second, but it's still too fast. So we want to really slow this down. So we're going to drop another in between in here and one more in between in here. This now gives us 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Half a second for that ball to drop, which is pretty good. Now the other new thing that we're going to add into this is we're going to throw in an in-between right here. And that's our favor. We talked about this last week. We're going to put a cushion in on the end just before it hits to this position here. And the reason for that is as the ball drops down, it's going from the halfway position to its lowest position. We just want to put one ball in there that is a circular ball just to cushion that impact so it doesn't just abruptly change from the halfway position into a squished ball. All right? So let's number these now. This is number 1, this is number 2, 3, 4, 5 is our halfway position, so we put a little line underneath it. That's our breakdown. 6 is our favor, and 7 is our key position. So now we can number this drawing here 7. We put a circle around it. We can also put in our timing chart here, blank timing chart. And now we're going to time out the action going from the low point down here back up to the high point position. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to take our timing chart from here and flip it over and essentially copy it. So we're going from number 7 back up to number 1. We're going to put in a halfway position, a quarter, an eighth, and a 16th so that we're slowing into the high point. But we're not going to put a favor down here. The reason we don't put a favor down here is because we don't want the ball to stay in this lower position here for 6 frames, 1/4 of a second. That's a little bit too long. We're actually going to talk about the timing of this down here later on. So we're going to go from 7 up to 8 in this position here, then 9, 10, and 11. That's the total number of drawings that we're going to use for this piece of animation, is 11 drawings. So the total number of frames overall is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, and then looping back up into number 1 is 24. So it's a 1 second bounce. From top to bottom, back up to top, it takes 1 second. Okay? Which is a nice, timing amount. It's like 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000. It's a nice bounce, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to proceed on to throw in our in-betweens. So we're going to put drawing number 1 down first, and then we're going to put down our drawing number 7 key, and we're going to do in between number 5 because it's the halfway position. So put your number 7 drawing down on top. And the reason we put drawing number 1 down first, this is just simply a time-saving issue. Drawing number 1 goes down first because it's on the bottom. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting number 7 on top, then another blank sheet of paper for number 5 on top of that. Then as we go through the in-betweens, we're going to take number 7 off and put number 5 back down. But we don't want to take number 1 off because it stays there because we're in-betweening down into number 1. So if we put number 7 down first, and then number 1 on top of it, every time we go to the next in-between, we have to take all the drawings off and put the next drawing back down again. And it just means we're constantly taking everything off and putting everything back on again. So we're going to leave the drawing that we know is going to stay for these in-betweens here on the bottom, and it just eliminates unnecessary movement of the drawings. One of the things you want to try and be careful of as you're doing your animation is be careful that your registration down here doesn't get messed up. Okay. The registration is there so that the drawings stay in their position when you shoot it. It holds it in that position so it doesn't jitter around. What ends up happening sometimes is if you're really careless with your drawings, let's say I've got a drawing on here, and over time I'm constantly moving it around and it's doing this type of stuff here. Look what happens to the peg holes. Okay, they get all hacked up so that when I go to put this on the peg, see how it slips around? So my registration is now off, and my focus, I'm going out of focus. I'm getting all dizzy because of it. No, what ends up happening is your registration goes off, so where your drawing should be, it could be shifted over like 1/4 of an inch out of its proper position. So you want to be very, very careful with your pegs to make sure that they're always nice and clean.